Chris from Poseidon, and here in this video to talk about some basics of choosing your first prone foiling setup. Cool, first thing to talk about is boards, what board to choose when you go for. We're going to look at the shape of the board and the size of the board. Ultimately the size of the board, the first obvious choice. Bigger the board is, the longer it is, the more volume it has, the easier it's going to be to paddle into a wave. But the smaller the board is, the less swing weight, the less restriction there is to pumping. So in an ideal world, we're using the smallest board we can get away with. But if this is your first board, you're going to weigh up whether you want to go so small it's going to make it difficult to paddle in. So we've got our weight to consider and where we're riding to consider. So if you're thinking about an average 80 kilo rider, they're choosing what board to go for. Something around about the 35 litre mark, which is probably going to be around about 4.5 foot, is going to be a good bench mark point of a board which you're going to go for. If you wanted to make it easy for yourself, you could get a bigger board, something around 40 or 45 litres, and that's going to give you a little bit more speed on the paddle, mean you can get in to that wave more towards the shoulder, a little bit less crucial of where you stand. However, going for a board that big means once you are up, there's going to be a lot more swing weight. It's going to make it harder to pump. So if surfing's new to you, if you're in a softer wave area, you might think about going for that bigger size. But if you've already got a pop-up dial from previous sports, or you're in an area with a lot of energy in the waves, you can probably go straight in with something around about the 35 litre mark. If you're a lighter person coming down smaller than that. I'm thinking about the shape of the board. Lots of different designs out there which you're going to consider to pick a board out of the rack here. What we're considering is where the volume is displaced on the board. So if we've got a wide nose with a lot of volume at the front, that's going to help that board to paddle in really easily. Whereas if we've got a board which is very pinched on the tail with a lot of bevels cut away, that's going to stop it catching the water, means you're going to be able to ride it a lot more aggressively. So as an entry level rider, you're probably looking for something which is wide at the front, which is flat on the bottom. As a more advanced rider, you might be thinking to cut away some bevels, and that's further along in the journey. So next thing to decide is what foil you're going to go for. So this is the technical bit, probably the most important bit, because that's where the science is, which is going to fly you, which is going to take off. So the considerations we want to look at is what size foil we're getting and what design foil we're getting. So generally speaking, we refer to its foil in its surface area, in its size. So if we pull down a foil here, whilst some brands are different and they might talk about the wingspan, we're generally always given a measurement of its surface area, which we'll come back to. We've also then got its dimensions. If we take its span and we divide that by its chord length, so its width, we're given an aspect ratio. So the narrower that foil is, the higher its aspect ratio is. So to compare the two, this one with this one here. So a higher aspect ratio foil creates a lot less drag. It's a lot more efficient per size. So it's a lot faster. If you've got the ability, it's easier to pump, and it's more efficient through the water. However, if you're riding in its bottom end, so you're not carrying speed, it's a lot more unstable. It can drop out and be very unforgiving. So the opposite end of the spectrum, which is the lower aspect ratio foil, makes it a very predictable lift. From a slow speed, it will gradually pick you up, but it will be more inefficient and it will be difficult to pump and carry speed. So whilst you could start on a low aspect ratio foil, you wouldn't want to start on a high aspect ratio foil. What you maybe want to consider is how difficult you want to make the journey. Starting here is a good starting point. However, you might grow out of it fairly quickly. So your general go-to is going to be what's nowadays referred to as a medium aspect ratio foil, which most of the brands make. This is the Armstrong medium aspect, the MA, the Axis Spitfire, the F1 Skate. They're all medium aspect ratio foils, which is a happy medium, somewhere in between. Other sports might be a little bit more difficult because you want that low end lift. But if we're prone foiling, we've got a lot of acceleration from the start. We can go straight in on this mid-level foil. We want to choose the right size. So again, thinking about somebody that's around about 80 kilos, what's the right size to go for? And if we're on a sensible wave that's somewhere kind of waist to chest high, something around about 1,200 square centimeters is going to be a good size to go for. That's going to give you a good speed band that's comfortable to take off with, that's not going to top out too quickly, but a good bottom end so that you can learn to pump it quite well. Somewhere between 11 and 1300 is a good go-to starting point. If you're a bit smaller, then you can shrink that down. Or as you become a better rider, riding in bigger conditions, able to develop a bit more speed, shrinking that size is going to give you a bit more top end performance and a top end speed, but less forgiveness in the bottom end. So start around about that 11 to 1300, unless you're smaller or a lot bigger, and you'd be winning. We then have other components with the foil. All brands have other components. All brands are different. We've got our fuselage, which connects our front foil to then the stabilizer, which sits at the back. The longer the fuselage, the wider the turn arc. So a longer fuselage is going to make it more stable at the beginning. The stabilizer at the back is dictating its characteristics. So if we shrink that stabilizer and we make it very high aspect ratio, it's going to be very efficient, but it's not going to give us a lot of stability. So something which is a bit wider makes it easier. If you wanted to make the journey really easy for yourself, you'd go for something like this stabilizer, which is very deep, very wide, and it's got winglets which grip the water laterally, which means that it feels more like it's on tracks, it's not going to slip, and helps you find your feet. Once you've got better, we might find this becomes a little inefficient, and to help with our pump and to help with our speed and our looseness, we'd go for something a little bit smaller. So as a rider coming into the sport, we think again about how difficult we want to make the journey. If we want to make it as easy as possible, start with a big shaped stabilizer, and then plan for further down the line to swap down to something smaller. It's the cheapest component, and that's what I'd recommend. If you wanted to go for something which is kind of a halfway house, something like a big progressive in the axis range is going to be a good point, which might be a little bit difficult to start, but you're going to grow into it. So choosing what mast to put on your foil setup is determined by ultimately the depth. Our masts for most brands come in around about 70 or 75, 80 to 85 and 90 to 95 centimeters. You've got this choice. In simple terms, the longer mast is going to give you more clearance. If we need that foil to stay in the water and we want the board to be out of the water, you've got more room to work with. However, we need our foil to be sitting in the wave. So a longer mast means we've got to fly higher. We also need to be in deep enough water. And if we're prone foiling in a location where it breaks into the shallows, longer mast might not be an option. So your ideal general go-to for most people where they're comfortable is around about 80 to 85. For most locations, that's going to work perfect. If you're in a location maybe like the south coast of the UK where it is breaking more onto the beach, you might find that you're hitting the bottom a little early. Going shorter to 70 or 75 is going to give you a little bit more room and time to pull out. Going bigger than 85 is going to be a long mast. It's going to slow everything down, and you're going to need to running pretty deep. So 80 to 85 is good. Aluminium or carbon. Carbon's going to be better. It's going to give you stiffness. It's going to be lighter, and it's generally going to be slimmer. So it's going to ride a lot faster. However, it's going to hike the price by 2 or even 3 times. So if you're committed, go carbon. If you want to ease into it, go for aluminium. So accessories, we're going to need a leash to attach onto our board. Any surfboard leash will work, no problems. However, a 6-foot leash which sinks as normal is going to sink down, and it can wrap around your foil, causing you problems when you pop up. So our foiling leashes come in shorter lengths to stop that from happening. They come in a coil to make it impossible to wrap around. It's always tight. Some people go for that because it's never dragging through the water. However, if we stand on it, it is going to throw us off. Or a straight leash, not a problem if we jump on it. However, it's going to trail through the water still. But either way, a foiling leash, some people go 4 foot. It's tiny, you barely know you're using it, but the board is quite close to you. Or 5 foot is a really good go-to to use. Next, a part I really swear by that really helps is some wing screws to attach your foil onto the board. It's not a necessity, but by being able to tune your mast position on the track is going to help you out in the sport. As the foil's further forwards in the board, it creates a lot more lift, as it's further back in the board, it decreases the lift. So whilst we're learning to pop up and find our feet, it's nicer to have less lift until we feel comfortable. The option to adjust that on the water really helps as you're figuring your positioning. So these features, which are quite expensive for the hydrofoil screws, but that adjustment really helps. Lastly, you've bought yourself all of this expensive kit, you want to look after it. So bags to protect it, a board bag and a foil bag is something which is just going to protect your investment. So it can be difficult when you're choosing where to spend a lot of money on your first prone foil setup, but hopefully that's a bit of insight into a starting point. For somebody around about 80 kilos, something 35 to 40 litres on the board with a fairly flat bottom. A medium aspect ratio foil around about 1200 with a big stabiliser. And then a shorter leash than usual is a good starting point of where to go to. But we're here, give us a shout anytime. Can gladly advise. Poseidon-watersports.com.